Hey guys, this is Scott Gallupo with episode 2 of Keith Richards' Riff Cousins. We're going to look at Keith's use of a chord progression E minor, D, C, B minor, as well as his use of the C add 9 chord. Coming up next. Okay, so the C add 9 chord. Everybody who's played guitar for any length of time pretty quickly encounters a C add 9 chord, usually in the open position. It looks something like this. You take a C chord and you add that D note, 2nd string, 3rd fret. Keith has indeed used that chord, but that's not the one I'm going to talk about today. We need to get into open G and we need to get a Telecaster. Alright, so we've got a Telecaster. This is a Nashville Tele. Obviously it's not with a humbucker like Keith has, but I've got an OCD Fulltone pedal that makes a single coil sound a little bit more like a humbucker guitar. And I've got a Deluxe Reverb. Keith plays more through Tweed, Twins, but this is as close as we need to get for our purposes. The C add 9 chord. So I try to debate with myself when the earliest instance of Keith using a C add 9 chord in open G was, and I thought it was the Talk Is Cheap track, You Don't Move Me. But I listened to it a couple times, and in the right channel there is an open G guitar, and I don't think it does the C add 9. I think that's done in standard tuning, a couple different guitars, an electric and an acoustic. So the first one I believe is Love Is Strong, the first single off of Voodoo Lounge 1994, and it goes something like this. Alright, so when we do this little hammer on between a G and an A, we get up to fret 5 for the C chord. I believe Keith uses pinky. You can use your ring finger, it really does not matter. You just hammer on to the D note, 7th fret, 3rd string, to get a C add 9 chord in open G. So it's not theoretically very complicated. It's a very simple move, but it's different than what we usually get from Keith, was just 1, 4, the 1 and the 4 chord of a progression. This kind of famous hammer-on move that everybody knows. This one is a little bit different. All right, it's kind of it's more of like just to add a little spice. Another instance of this C add 9, or another appearance, is on Substantial Damage, which is a great funk sort of jam off of Keith's most recent solo album, Cross-Eyed Heart, 2015. And that track starts out with another cousin relationship in itself, which the main riff is an adaptation of If You Can't Rock Me, from 1974, but that one's kind of obvious. We're going to get to the C add 9 chord here. So the main riff there is just, this is something Keith does a whole lot. So we've got 3rd and 4th strings, 2nd and 3rd fret, and I'm just sliding into a G7. And I'm grabbing this C note here. You can do it like this if you prefer, but I think it's better here. Okay, and that's just hammer on 3 to 4 on the 5th string. And then there's these little jabs. Just barring the top 2 strings on the 3rd fret, and we're adding the high E string, 5th fret. Just jabbing in between a G7 and a G. here comes our C add 9. And he pulls off of it just to play a regular C. And we're moving to a B flat, C to D. All right, so that is the C add 9. And the other progression we wanted to talk about is E minor, D, C, B minor. So the first track we're going to look at is Hold Back from 1986, the Stones' 1986 album, Dirty Work. It's kind of unfairly maligned album. It was a bad time for Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, their relationship personally and as songwriters. So there's a lot of Keith and a lot of Ronnie on this album, which is why I like it. Steve Lillywhite, the producer of this album, I read fairly recently that he likes to joke that people tell him that he made the very worst Rolling Stones album there is. And he says, well, only until the next one, or until the next one came out, and then that one was worse. And every subsequent Rolling Stones album was worse. That's not true. The albums they put out after Dirty Work, I believe, are better. What Steve Lillywhite did succeed in doing is making Charlie Watts' drums sound sterile and pretty bad. That's a real achievement, a real negative achievement when you think about it. So congratulations, Steve Lillywhite, for making Charlie Watts sound ordinary. But that's a digression. The riff, Hold Back, is E minor, D, C, B minor. And the thing to watch here when we're in open G is that sometimes Keith does not articulate a full minor chord. Sometimes he does, and an E minor would look something like this. All right, you gotta have to stack your fingers in here and play that minor third note. And an E minor would be this G, that G note on the second string. He doesn't always do that. He doesn't articulate the full chord. Sometimes he just attacks the third, fourth, and fifth strings, that string set. And probably just with this third finger here. And what we get is something like this. And we're kind of hammering and pulling off between just open G and those chords, those power chords. So we got 9, 7, 5, 4. You don't even really have to think about E minor, D, C, B minor. Just think 9, 7, 5, 4. All right, so we're implying an E minor here and a B minor here. We're not actually playing the full minor chords. That riff turned up a short 2 years later on the solo track from Talk Is Cheap called Struggle. And the interesting thing about Talk Is Cheap, and a lot of late period Keith Richards, generally speaking, is that there's no identifiable verse and chorus. There's just an A section and a B section and maybe a C section. And it takes somebody with the patience of Steve Jordan and Mick Jagger used to be. I don't think he's patient enough to work this way anymore, to tease out what is the verse and what is the chorus of what the ideas that Keith is coming up with. So in Struggle, I don't know what we call this part of the song. It's kind of like the chorus, I guess, but it happens over the lyric, if you struggle, it only tightens up. And it's straight out of Hold Back. It's really the same riff, and it goes like this. All right, so that's the main riff of Struggle. And that's just kind of a slur. It's 0, 0, 4, 7, 9, if you want to think of it that way, but it's really just kind of loose. And he actually does articulate the minor. So I'm taking my pinky on the second string from 10 to 8. And there's that full minor chord. All right, and then it's... Okay, so you can see how those are, it's almost like those riffs can't even be called cousins. They're more like brothers. I mean, it's almost the exact same thing. Hold back. And struggle. All right, so we can see Keith's use of the minor chord in open G. Sometimes it's articulated, sometimes not. When did he start doing that? I think the earliest might have been on Exile on Main Street, the outtake that we heard much later called Plundered My Soul. But you definitely hear minor chords in open tunings before open G. In the earliest experiments in open D and E, tracks like Child of the Moon, Salt of the Earth had these implied minor chords that weren't fully articulated. And we certainly hear it on Before They Make Me Run off of Some Girls. All right, and that E minor is again implied, but he's only attacking the lower string set, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th strings. All right. We have a lot more content coming your way, more Keith Richards riff cousins, but for now, we've got the C add 9, which is just a little twist on the kind of open G move that we're used to seeing from Keith. It's a little bit different. Love is Strong and Substantial Damage. And then we've got this E minor, D, C, B minor descending thing from Hold Back and Struggle. All right, there's more to come. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and healthy.